welcome to the coffee show, Jack Allisey, and of course, the newest crowned Australian Barista Champion, Gabrel Tan.
Thank you.
This has been a long time coming, hasn't it? Like, you've been working at this for what, a good 5 years now?
Yeah,
and
it's
you've
5 years.
come second or third pretty much every time that you've competed.
Yeah.
I gather.
Yeah.
I guess the first question is like, what's the feeling after trying so many times, and you came up against some really amazing people. So
100%.
it's like you came second to Anthony Douglas, if I remember, who went on to win the World Barista Championship. You came second to Jack Simpson, who came third, second, and then just won this time around as well. So the path's been really hard for you, but what's the feeling like now?
Definitely more relaxed. I spent the last week recovering, and yeah, I think I spent so much time to try to win my first championships. I did not think of what's going to happen after I win. So I'm still trying to find out what am I going to do. But overall, I'm very happy the result and happy for my team, everybody from Veneziano that support me, and yeah, very grateful.
What do you think it was that got you over the hump this time?
Oh,
Because you came up against Angus Mackie, who came second, and I thought he put in a really, really good performance. Like, his stage setting was amazing.
Always does.
Always does. We've got such good competition here.
Yeah.
But what do you think it was this time around, in your opinion, that made you the Australian Barista Champion?
I think it's all the experience that I, been through over the years. Coffee selection. And like, I remember my first year, I told you I wanted the most expensive coffees, and we got some Colombian geisha that's cost $500 a kilo. But it didn't work out that way. I think coffee selection, and I had everybody at Venet's helping me out this time, and also be able to be part of Jack Simpson's preparation for Milan this time. And, he really inspired me to be a better barista and be more prepared and understand what I need to do as a competitor. In
your work with Jack, what do you think like were 2 or 3 things that you picked up that you were like, I can apply this to myself and be better?
Oh, it definitely made me a more disciplined competitor. I used to just do 1 or 2 practice a day, and I was like, I feel good. I can do my run throughs now. But after seeing him, I remember the past 2025 nationals, I would finish practice at 5 o'clock, and I always drive past Axel after practice and look into Axel, the training room light still on, and this guy is still practicing, and I'm going home. I think definitely be more disciplined and
Focused more than discipline, I think.
Focus more than discipline.
Yeah, it's an interesting characteristic about him, because I helped him film some like content the other day, and I thought to it, because he wants to start a YouTube channel, and he I was like, I expect to see this in like 2 weeks. That night he had it up, edited, and had done it all himself, bought all the gear, just seems to throw himself at things like that, which is an incredible trait. What do you think you've seen in Gab over like this time? Because you've been with him for every prep.
Yeah, I've been definitely around. We've obviously, focused this year on having a much larger team involved with Gab's prep, not just within Veneziano, but all of Gab's network. And yeah, definitely I think the focus this year has been the big change. Gab very quickly defined, I'm going to do it this year, and this is how I'm going to do it, and had a plan for everyone and everything that he wanted, and what he wanted out of people as well. Playing to his team's strength for sure.
Yeah, and you described before that you've used coffee from Cafe Graja La Esperanza in Colombia, so amazing producer in Colombia, and you decided, I think over time, that you started working with Kai Janson from Finca Janson.
Yeah.
How did that kind of relationship and selection start?
I think it's just I met Kai over a couple of coffee trade shows and really enjoy hanging out with that guy. You met him, and he's just a good dude. And I started reaching out to have the first coffee, and I used back in 2024. Yeah, and it tastes amazing, and the flavors are just very articulate and easier to describe, and tick all the boxes. And earlier this year, we were very lucky to be able to go to visit Panama for the first time and get to spend some time with Kai at his farm. And I was very connected to his coffee. I remember I started to tear up when I was spending time with him at his lake house. I felt so connected to the environment in Panama with him, with his coffee. So it was very...
Yeah, and I think that's key, right? Obviously, like you said, you used GLE coffee previously, and Kai's is obviously world standard as well. There's no differentiation there, but that connection and the story you're wanting to tell is very important through the coffee as well, which has definitely been a focus this year as well, which came through in your milk course, definitely.
So what was the, the theme or essence of your routine this time around? I mean, I know because I watched, but tell everyone that who's tuning in that...
It started back in, 2025 Nationals, and I used the same coffee for espresso and milk course, and I came second, and I wanted to do the same thing with the same coffees and trying to apply a stronger message that I want to deliver for my current Nationals. Basically just talk about accessibility of high quality coffees. Obviously we all love Panamanian geisha, but it's not as accessible for everybody. And, we put those great coffees in a competition scene, put them on a spotlight, but what about other producers? Which is why I chosen Satria's coffee from Wanoja Estate in Indonesia for my meal course this time. It's still great coffee. Yeah.
And I think this is it's an interesting thing you say there, because like the cost effectiveness of the coffee that you use for your milk course is pretty good, pretty accessible for most people.
Yeah.
And the trend is, and a lot of the times you're more competitive if you're using a high end coffee for espresso like Panama Geisha. But I think like it's possible to do it in other ways, right? Like we had Alex here last week, and in his regional competition, he actually used a co-ferment for Brewers Cup, which is, and the theme was like we wanted the cost per cup of coffee to be like less than $1.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that probably has parallels with the work that you did with Satria as well. It's also about what is the potential of this coffee and how can it be manipulated as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people consume their coffee in Australia anyway through milk. So like, I always find that Indonesia, and I think this is a conversation that you and I had in the days afterwards actually. So Indonesia, some of the farmers there don't have like the infrastructure that farmers do in Central America, South America, and I guess the obstacles they face are different. Like, I mean, all origins have kind of, the roads to the farms are incredibly difficult, or sometimes labor is an issue, and kind of the economics around it as well, because some of the cooperatives, I guess you call them in Indonesia, are actually government owned or funded, which in theory sounds good, but also creates kind of limitations on how you can grow.
It creates some level of guardrails to work within to a certain extent.
What would you say that those are? Like, I guess, because you've got to sort of make sure that everyone's paid.
Yeah, it's all of that, but it's I think, obviously governments or producing country governments do an amazing amount of work through, they're representing an entire country worth of producers around, marketing and access to customer base and that sort of thing. But some of what Gab has sort of worked on this year is how do we highlight that coffee and make sure there's a market for it. Whereas traditionally in those guardrails, it isn't there. That access to a market, both producing it and then being able to sell it and move it forward. Where, we've seen it in other countries where you kind of have to break the mold before it becomes the norm and the acceptance.
Yeah. And so the competition you won qualifies you for the World Barista Championship, which of course is in Panama City next year in October. So you've got quite a long time to prepare compared to what usually national champions have.
Correct.
So how do you plan to spend that time? What will you do between now and October to try and put your best foot forward to try and become the World Barista Champion?
Ooh.
You've got your beach hut booked at the Maldives.
Okay, all right. Sweet as.
obviously I'm going to take, my Christmas break, and I've already started planning, my trips next year, things that's going to happen. Myself and Jay is going to go to Panama again in April to, source our competition coffee for our espresso. Definitely going to visit Kai and other producers as well. And also plan to go back to Indonesia and continue work with Satria and to see how we can, apply different techniques of fermentation to bring the coffee, I think, I should say it, but up to the standard of, WBC coffees, yeah.
In your score sheet, milk was one of your, you got 5 or something out of 6?
5s, and there's one judge that scored me a full score 6. Yeah.
6, wow. Yeah. So not really much room for improvement there. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
And the signature drink, if I recall, you got 5.5s and
5.5, 5s, yeah.
Yeah, wow. So that's almost as high as it goes. These are scored out of 6. Yeah. Then I think if I recall correctly, your espresso was 4 out of 6.
4 and 4.5. Yeah.
Okay. Well, still very good. Yeah. And so obviously you won. So very great. What do you think it is with espresso that could take you to a 6? Because obviously again we just watched Jack Simpson go to the Worlds, got 100% for his espresso score, and that's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's only been done twice, both times competitors using Finca Deborah as well. Do you think how do you think you'll go about coffee selection to try and get it to that 6? Because obviously you know how to make it, you know how to brew it, and I'll get into some of the more technical stuff relating to you in a moment. But do you think you'll choose a different coffee? What will your approach be?
There's a possibility that I will choose a different coffee. Obviously, it's a coffee competition and you want to bring the best coffee possible to the stage. Again, I was lucky to, be part of Jack's preparation. I get to taste, because if you can't really be part of other people's preparation, you always just stuck in your own bubble and you thought that this is the best that you can.
You have no reference point.
Yeah, you have no reference point. So being able to taste Jack's coffee, I know, oh wow, how good espresso could taste like. So I think, we're going to go to Panama and with an open-minded, mindset to taste all the coffee.
How does that apply when you're on a cupping table at Finca Janson though? Because they're all good coffees, right? And then you're trying to pick what you think will score well in a competition. And it's an incredible challenge to think this will have the clarity. And that's something I really learned this time around as well. Clarity isn't just is it clean? It's is it easily describable? Because all the points pretty much come from how good the coffee is and how well you describe it effectively. So you're in a field of roses. How do you pick the prime one?
I don't know, buy everything. I'm just kidding. Obviously, we'll pick a couple and that we like, and obviously, and pick a few others that we think is going to also be good as a backups. And everything's going to change when we will taste it in Panama. It'll be very fresh. In 3 or 4 months' time, it might be a different story. So we'll bring other coffees back, and then we'll roast everything again and taste it and see which performs the best.
Yeah, and I think part of how we approached it this year was definitely, a selection, but also the 3, 4, 5 that we selected sat within a similar profile. So we knew where we kind of wanted to sit flavor profile wise. It was more about which one presented best on the day once we came back to Australia.
But this is a good angle to sort of speak to you a little bit about, Jack, because if I haven't actually introduced you to the listener yet. So Jack Allisey, head coffee buyer for the Nomad Coffee Group. Yeah. So you're in charge of, I guess, thousands of tons of coffee.
Through the group, we obviously have Veneziano here in Melbourne. We're obviously sister company to Flight Coffee over in New Zealand, as well as our black bag roasters out in Truganina.
Oh, geez. So collectively, how much coffee are we talking on a weekly basis?
Oh, anywhere.
If you're at liberty to say.
Anywhere, upwards of 130, 150 tonne, but through, numerous different channels, right? And that's sort of the key is every coffee has a home and we try and have a home for everything as well.
Do they have an excellent life insurance policy for you? Because
I don't know.
Okay.
So Apparently,
Because if
they're
you
not allowed to tell you.
okay, right. Well, if you were taken out or something like that, that would be a serious problem.
Hypothetically.
Well, do you ever get nervous being in charge of that much coffee coming in?
Oh, definitely. The level of anxiety that I've had over the last 5 or 10 years that I've been with the business, for sure. But it's been a group that I've had amazing opportunities with, and we're starting to bring the next sort of generation of people through to come into a similar sort of role as well, which I find really exciting.
Yeah, it was. I actually signed an NDA going into the Truckana Insight you speak of, so I can't describe too much about it, but I will say it's a very elaborate setup, and your roaster's the size of a house. Like, it's huge.
It's definitely bigger than some apartments I've stayed in.
Yeah, and some of the the logistics behind it are just incredible.
It's really a different side of coffee that not a lot of people play in. Excuse me. And thinking about it in a different sort of way as well. But I don't think that that's a side of coffee we should shy away from at all. Like Gab's been talking about, we taste 12 of the best coffees on stage in a 15-minute presentation. Well, 4 people do. And then there's the coffee that 90% of people are drinking every day that has a lot of value.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I was circling back to. So you're very experienced in sourcing coffees from pretty much everywhere that there is to source coffee from. So if you're on this trip with Gab and you kind of got some input on all right, you're on a table of Finca Janson, everything's just unbelievable quality. What is it about it that you'd be like, that's something you should consider?
Well, I think this year I probably played a little bit of the voice of reason for Gab. Gab's a very excitable young man. We've got to buy it, Jack, before someone else gets it. But actually approaching it with a bit more structure.
So what does structure look like?
Well, if you like that, it's completely different to something else you like. So how are we actually approaching, what are we going to put forward on a competition table? Or are we taking a shotgun approach and just getting a lot of really tasty coffees?
And it's some context here as well. So Veneziano previously had a very long run of winning the Australian Barista Championships with Craig Simon. Dave Macon had one there.
Dave Macon, he might claim it for Axel now, but it was Veneziano originally.
Jay Jennings, when she was at the company, came second.
She obviously did very well, and have had people across other formats do really well as well. Aaron Sampson in latte art and Jen Marks and a lot of other people along the way as well.
Daniel Shabbold.
Daniel Shabbold in roasting as well.
So there's a lot of I guess expertise in the building. So what are some things you've perhaps learned from them that you can impart on Gab?
Ooh. I think Gab's probably the first competitor that I've been involved in as closely out of all of the other guys. So it's been really fun to grow with him as well, and understand what he needs and what's best for his preparation. I think what would I having seen very different people prepare for competition along the way would be actually take a breath and sit back and enjoy it when you get a chance. You've got 15 minutes on stage to deliver something that you've put 3, 6, 9, 12 months into. So actually enjoy presenting a thing that you feel very, very closely attached to.
It was interesting watching watching every competitor, because I was the MC again for the comps, which is a great thing to do because you watch every single routine, and otherwise you probably wouldn't. You sort of mingle around throughout the day, you don't focus. But it's a really interesting position to be in when you get to actually watch people every time. Not even the judges get to do that, but I do, and I get to stand behind the situation and see what people do. And if I were to draw the biggest, I guess, parallels with you and Angus, so he had this absolutely amazing stage setup where basically he tried to recreate an environment.
I loved it.
And he
close your eyes, bucket hat on, welcome to the beach.
Yeah, and he did so well. And he's an inspirational guy. And for people that don't know, he had actually cancer of the tongue, 5 or 6 years ago, and had to get part of his tongue removed to save his life.
Yeah, which for a coffee professional is pretty scary.
It's terrifying. So I think he had to relearn how to taste, and obviously had to adapt the way he talks.
Yeah.
And I guess shout out to him for being able to do that and continue to come on stage 100%. And continue to bring it. He's someone I really look up to. But he had these stage settings where he tried to recreate being at the beach, the native Australian wildlife noises. He used the music and stuff like that as part of his routine, which is a cool way to integrate things, and knowing the score sheets, knowing what you can and can't do. But I would say like maybe the biggest difference between him and you is that he was probably a bit busy with some of the things that he was doing. Like he had a lot to set up, where I think you from the start to finish pulled the most shots of anyone in your prep time over the whole weekend. And where I'm going with this is that's where the points are. And like we like even myself having competed previously and without having helped Alex prep recently as well, the points are in the coffee. It's not a talking competition. It's a coffee competition.
Yeah. There's scores there to be had for it, but if you're not delivering on the coffee, which is the underlying base for your entire presentation, there's nothing there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where you excelled, is that you've really focused on making sure that was right.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the formula for winning a barista competition now is customer service, coffee, customer service, coffee, customer service, coffee. And if you nail those two things, you'll do that. That's where you should focus most of your energy. Agree? Disagree?
100% agree. Yeah.
So, but would you say that was like something you kind of? What's your approach when you're doing the prep time? Because to fill anyone in that doesn't know, you've got 15 minutes to kind of set up your table setting and to dial your coffee in to get it tasting the best. And before that, you get an opportunity to dial your coffee in backstage. So you've got a little bit of a guesstimation point of where to start. So how are you spending those 15 minutes? What's your plan?
15 minutes, obviously get everything on the table, as quick as possible, and really take your time, be patient to dial in the coffee to the right, extraction time that you're aiming for. A lot of things can happen on stage, different environment, and you're using a grinder that's going to heat itself up, and you don't, keep pumping all the coffees, and then, it might fluctuate when you start your comp time. So really take your time, and also during your setup time, also try to calm yourself and be in a zone and just focus on what you're doing, and don't let the environment to sort of distract you, because I've made a lot of mistakes before that. I forgot all my eyes and stuff and have to run backstage, and then that just really fuck with your brain. And,
frazzles you. Yeah. So you take that opportunity to kind of gather yourself, get all these things ready, get composed. I suppose that took a few years of learning.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people, I remember Hugh Kelly telling me this. He had a checklist that he would have. So some people are very structured with how they do that, and I think for traveling as well, when
100%.
he's carrying all his gear, like having these really meticulous.
Yeah, and I think we're probably not the most structured, organised at the best of times, let alone for competition.
Yeah.
But Gab was quite deliberate and clinical about it this year. Not to the point of having photos of your trolley set up, and because we kept it quite simple this year as well. But that is definitely a strong area, and a big inventory list is going to be on the cards.
Yeah, well, I guess let's take it there, because you'll have to travel to Panama, which is very long journey from Australia. Like traveling anywhere overseas is pretty long for us.
Yeah.
How do you think you would go about that?
I haven't thought that far yet.
Firstly, how's your Spanish?
How's my Spanish? Not great.
Hablas español.
Yeah. I don't get a couple of my colleagues and team to help me carry some stuff. Again, I've seen how Jack prepared his travel. Who is coming with me, how much baggage they have, and just take and allocate all the stuff to everybody, and don't do it all yourself. Basically.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I was talking to Dave, and they somehow had to get someone else to fly with with some of their grinders or something. Was it Nick Percy that had to take a bunch of their stuff?
Yeah. So there was a bill involved in that as well, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be the tricky bit that is a bit of the unknown. Obviously, in a producing country, is going to be super fun, and it's a bit of a rare occurrence as it is anyway.
Yeah.
But we'll probably have to take more things. We don't actually knowing where and how to get stuff done,
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, massive dairy industry over there, but very different milk to what we use over here. So, you know, figuring out how we tackle a lot of those obstacles is going to be.
It's interesting. I've heard some rumors of some new stage sponsors for the machine and grinders. Have you heard these rumors?
No.
Well, I'm not sure if I should say it on the pod. Should I say it? Because I'm not live.
They're only rumors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, word on the street is that Slayer could be the new machine, and that Chiato could be the grinder sponsor. I could be horrifically wrong, but I'm just suggesting a rumor here. Word on the street: Slayer and Chiato could be the new ones, and they're both like I tried out some Chiato grinders over in Milan. I was really impressed. Like one thing we probably need to one thing that actually I think the cafe industry, particularly in Australia, should probably take notice of is we don't probably need to spend as much on equipment as we do. Like we compel roasters and things like that to buy a lot of the state-of-the-art equipment.
Yeah.
But there's coming to be more affordable,
I think,
really high-quality options available.
Like any industry, the first iteration of something is always going to be the most expensive and the most research and development that has to be recovered, right?
Yeah.
But now there's a lot more knowledge and understanding about what the inputs and outputs and effect on quality is. There's just so much more available that can, you know, actually work really well and be really solid.
Yeah, well, I just thought to myself, my gosh, if I ever open another cafe, I can have just as good quality coffee and spend half as much on equipment in the
100%.
future. Like, and you know, some of this gear.
And opening a cafe, over-capitalising at the start, just not a good move.
Yeah, well, a lot, but a lot of the cost is sometimes borne by roasters as well, right? It's
Also.
not, like I had this discussion with someone recently where they're saying, he asked me, do you think the barrier to entry for opening a cafe is really high now or really low? And I mean, I didn't really think about it, and I said really high, and he said, it's actually really low because basically someone else can finance most of your business for you with, you know, machinery and all these sorts of things. Yeah. And, you know, like, yeah, there's like some capital investment required by you, but yeah, I just think we probably have been over-investing in some of this stuff for a bit too long and not focusing on the things that matter in cafes. But
yeah, 100%. You know, there's definitely a quality difference, don't get me wrong, but is it 1%, 2%, 10%? And how much of that is how you use it, how you maintain it, your technique, all of that sort of thing as well that can make the difference.
Do you think there's a knowledge kind of gap in cafes these days? I feel like because of, and it's in no way or shape or form like, you know, staff's fault anymore. And let me explain it like this. So I feel like a lot of good talent in the coffee industry would actually love to stay working on a coffee bar. But for financial reasons, they need to move on they feel like they need to elevate, maybe go to roasting or maybe go to, you know, a sales job or just exit the industry altogether, which a lot of people do. It's kind of created this knowledge gap in cafes where I don't think actually, particularly in Melbourne, I don't think we're as skilled now as we were 7 or 8 years ago.
I think it's a different skill set. I think there's a lot of very talented, knowledgeable baristas out there, but I think it's just a very different skill set to what it was 7 or 8 years ago.
How so?
Workflow, you know, the advances in equipment that automate some of that and do a very good job. Sash has obviously got a lot to answer for the OCD on the world stage, you know, things like that have changed what a barista is there doing, right? You know, you're not sitting there doing these ones at the back of the bar every dial in. You're actually focusing on what the coffee tastes like, which I think is not to be undervalued either.
Yeah, no, true. And I wonder how much further it will go. And we were just trying coffee down at my shop where we're trying to bypass a lot of the process altogether. Yeah. So what you know, I spoke about it last week, but I'll touch on it again. So at the new shop that I'm opening, all the espresso for milk coffee, so latte, flat white, cappuccino, whatever, it's actually going to be brewed at our site on King Street.
Pre-brewed.
Yeah. Pre-brewed. So it's handmade as well, although we'll have to innovate around that pretty quickly. But and it'll be shipped to our other site and dispensed out of taps. Yeah. So instead of taking 1 minute start to finish to make a latte, so you start at the grinder, emptying the puck, cleaning that, grinding, tamping, brewing, stemming milk, pouring it in the cup, lid on, about a minute start to finish.
Yep.
I hypothesize it'll be at the next shop 5 to 10 seconds. So, and then you think about as well, like if I'm brewing it at one shop, then I don't need to invest in as much equipment at the next one.
And labor.
So like your capital's less expensive, and then you produce it more efficiently at the shop as well.
Yeah.
So like there's multiple reasons. Where I think the challenge will be is like perception. Will a customer see that and think,
Yeah, definitely. And
I'm cheating?
And that's part of it. I think there's obviously the whole industry is full of it, of either preconceptions, myth, or pocket science. And I think breaking those is always going to be the hardest
Yeah.
part. You know, we're creatures of habit at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, like it's very exciting, scary though. We just had someone break into the cafe this morning. It's in a high crime area, I guess you'd say, in the city. So during the day it's fine, but at night you got some creatures lurking around.
Well, at least there's no Lama Zocco on the bench to steal.
Well, not yet. So we got this machine that dispenses liquids out of the machine into a cup, right? It's the only machine we've got installed, and someone's broken in and actually just stripped the wiring from it, presumably for the copper in the wiring. So am I supposed to believe some crack junkie's he's got some guy that he just goes and delivers copper to in Melbourne? Like, just why are you breaking into my cafe and like didn't even like steal anything else? Just stole the wiring from a coffee machine.
It's a hot market out there.
Yeah, like is there really that much of a market for copper wiring? I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know, man.
But anyway, back to the coffee stuff. You must be excited for the World Barista Championship.
I am very excited. Yeah.
What do you think is making? What do you think the biggest challenges for you would be? Obviously, the logistical operation of getting there. We just mentioned the bags, and you might travel with grinders as well.
Yeah.
Which is obviously an extra heavy luggage expense.
Yeah.
So when you consider maybe the coffee, perhaps some of the other people you're competing against, what do you think takes up most of your thought?
I think probably just the logistics, the milk, the coffee, how's it going to age, how's it going to perform. Over in Panama, that's something that's quite new for us. We have never competed in World Barista Championships before. So it'd be cool to find out. And yeah, in terms of competitors, I think I should just worry about myself, and they won't touch you. So
well, this is the thing that I was talking to someone else about. Is it's statistically likely that you won't win because not to shatter your dream, not to be negative, but it's statistically likely that you won't win because you're competing against 60 or 80, however many competitors this time around. There can only be one winner, and everyone else is kind of heartbroken. So it's a tough competition. Yes, there's a formula to do your best and potentially win, but so much is there's so much out of your hands. What will the machinery be like on the day? How will the judges perceive it? Yada, yada, yada.
And that's just it. It is control what you can control. It's not like an AFL game where you're playing against another team. You have to put your best performance on stage, and that's what's judged at the end of the day. But I think the other part that we'll also do is actually sit down and look at what does success look like. Success isn't just winning. What else do we want to get out of this competition? Because there's a lot to learn along the way, and a lot to get out of it.
What are some of your more epic buying stories? I always love talking to green buyers about some of the stuff they've dealt with overseas. What's like a Jack Allisey perler of what's the most extreme thing that's happened to you or you've witnessed while you're buying?
I'm not a fan of horses at the best of times. Too big, heads too small. How do they control themselves? I don't know. I once was doing, obviously, coffee tourism a little bit, but on a buying trip at a farm in Colombia that we'd worked with a couple of years previously, and we were doing the farm tour. And previous years, we'd travel and we'd taken a little mule up the mountain. And it was, Jack, you've been here a couple of years before. You can take the horse this time. We'll give the mule to the guy that I was traveling with, so it's a little bit slower. About halfway up, that horse decided he didn't like me as much as I didn't like him, and we cantered off down a mountain, probably 300 metres in elevation, directly downwards before he decided to stop and take a drink, and I very quickly got off the horse.
So you just effectively dismounted?
Yeah, we were taking a nice little winding journey up, quite picturesque and lovely. See the the top of the farm. You can look out and actually visualize where things are grown, and we talk about individual lots, and that's actually over here, and that this is how we process it and move stuff around, and taking a nice little winding road up, and then all of a sudden, not for me, straight back down, not on the path, just through the lines. And
were you injured?
No, I was just, emotionally.
Shaken.
Shaken, for sure. So I haven't gotten on a horse since then, and that would have been, 2017.
Yeah, okay. I was on I think it was the death road in Bolivia. And yeah, it's pretty scary, especially when you're told this is one of the most dangerous routes.
I think I try and block stuff like that out.
Yeah.
The first question is, do you ever feel unsafe? And all of that? No, it's just another part of the world, and like anywhere, you can walk around Melbourne and feel unsafe, right? Just, don't be too out there and drawing attention. But I've never felt unsafe, and I've always travelled with really good people and that sort of thing. So I just sort of, if something's meant to happen, it'll happen. If not, just sit back and enjoy the car ride or the horse or the...
I was in Sao Paulo the night that Jair Bolsonaro was elected.
Yeah.
So it was like the Brazilian Trump, I think they called him. And it was kind of a surreal experience in a way, because I had absolutely no idea why people were going so crazy in the street. Yeah. I was just walking through the middle of the street and everyone's just going nuts.
Yeah, I landed in Colombia one day, and it was the day of an election, a controversial one. I'm not good on my South American politics at the best of times, but it was also I can't remember the soccer team, so it was a rival match in Bogota at the same time as well. So it was pretty hectic on the streets, but you just take it in, and it's a pretty privileged thing to do, to be in such parts of the world and being able to experience that kind of stuff.
Well, it was real surreal for me, because there's just this great big Brazilian dance party in the middle of the street, right? So this guy's got elected. People were getting up off their chairs at restaurants and stuff and just dancing. And then the army's, rolling through in columns through the streets in their trucks, and someone fired a few shots. And I was like, oh my God. And that was, it was a strange experience. Later that night, I ended up getting a bit of food poisoning. I had to run for my life to a bathroom. This is actually funny. So I ate some pizza, and I was walking back to the hotel with some people I was traveling with, and I started to feel really unwell. I was like, oh, guys, I'm really sorry, but I got to go. And then I ran to the supermarket. I was like, can I please use the toilet? But they've got barriers in front of all the shops there to prevent theft and crime and stuff like that. And next door was Hooters.
Yeah, perfect.
So I sprinted into the Hooters, and I started, this woman didn't speak any English whatsoever. And I said, I really need to go to the bathroom. And she's like, huh? I said, toilet. What did you do at the toilet? She's like, I can't let you. And I offered her $50 like, please, I'm going to and she's like, oh my God, just go.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was,
I don't know if it's a story I want immortalized in video format, but now that you've shared that, I've never been as embarrassed as I have been having to mime in broken Spanish why I need Imodium.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, just
You learned that one pretty quickly?
Oh my God, yeah. But that was brutal in Brazil. I just, for 6 days, just couldn't, I was just
embrace it.
You're having to travel, but you're dealing with that, and it's just, it always happens at origin trips every single time.
I think I need to practice my Spanish now.
Yeah.
Just so you don't want situations like that.
Yeah, just make sure you've got a high fiber diet. And,
exactly.
Just and plenty of Imodium if you're in the vicinity. But you were talking a bit before about Nomad, and I was lucky enough to interview Nick. I think it might have been last year or earlier this year, but just so much goes into what you guys do. And you're one of the few B Corp certified companies of your size, which is pretty hard to do for a coffee company, if I recall.
It is, not because of that any other supply chains don't have the same complexities, but I think coffee in general does, because of the environments where coffee's grown, but also B, how many steps there are in the chain to get it all the way to here and roasted and to a customer. So, I guess Nick can talk to it much more eloquently than I can, but yeah, getting that, I guess, understood under the B Corp certification is very hard. Obviously, I think Melbourne Coffee Merchants or Market Lane were a little bit ahead of us as well, which is great because obviously the girls there do an amazing job and were a great assistance to us as well.
What I found most interesting about what he told me is like how you're using I think it was 30 to 40% less gas than you would usually. And I just find that level of savings incredible because obviously the gas price has just shot up in Australia. So for an economic viability sort of standpoint, you're doing really well. And one day these things will probably all be done electrically. There's
a lot of technologies there that are super exciting, and we've been doing a lot of research around, I guess, energy reclamation. We're using 30% less gas, but how much of that energy can we reclaim through either water heating or that sort of stuff and get reused? Because obviously Truganina being as big as it is, there is a lot of mass there. So, but yeah, the amount that or the efficiency of that plant has been amazing. We were shocked. So it's quite cool and a big part of what our the work that Nick's done as well around climate active and all of that sort of stuff as well.
I'm pretty sure you guys had to have some engineers come and live here from Italy for nearly a year or something as well.
Oh, it wasn't quite that long, but they come out occasionally to visit.
But when you were constructing the site?
Yeah, definitely. It was probably about a 6-month build by the end of it. And, we're talking containers and containers worth of equipment. And I've got no idea how it goes together.
Yeah.
I can get containers into the country, but not put Italian roasting machines together.
Yeah.
But having it together now is quite crazy, and sort of looking at, what are the next steps? Because fortunately we're going strength to strength.
So I'm interested to know, Gab, what, hypothetically speaking, you win the World Barista Championship. What do you do after that? I think it's interesting to watch Jack now kind of formulate some of what the ideas that he wants to do. Ideally speaking, how would you want to spend, because you're what, 25 years old?
I'm 27.
27, yeah. All right. So still a young guy. Looks 21. Yeah. But, how do you want to spend your post-competition career?
Oh, I should start thinking about that because it might happen. I've never thought that far yet. But right now, after, winning the Australian Barista Championships, I think overnight, I felt there's a sense of responsibility to a lot of things, to the company that represents and to the producers and stuff like that within our industry. Never thought that far.
I really want this. One thing that I said to you guys before was since helping Alex prepare and compete, it's hard to enjoy coffee as much because that coffee was so good. And I'm everything is kind of objectively that was one of the best coffees in the world. So naturally,
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of am a little bit different in that I kind of don't enjoy competition coffee. The coffees are amazing, don't get me wrong, but you're always looking at them with these hyper analytical lens, and you don't actually get to enjoy the coffee for its full. Yeah, this is a full thing that I want to enjoy and everything behind it, rather than it breaking down every little bit of section and trying to dial it into a tiny little wedge that scores well.
Yeah, it's so crazy how you spend so much time just getting one thing to taste as good as you have. And I understand you actually roasted the coffee yourself this time around, which is a first as well. What was and previously you've roasted?
You've done it for a couple of years now?
I've done it for 3 years.
Okay.
I got cut very early.
All right. So what did you learn over the years to get it to kind of the level that got you the win?
It's definitely, a lot of responsibility to do that. It's very stressful, every time when I extract my espresso, I wouldn't just think of my extractions, but I also think of my roasting. So I think the biggest thing is just the feedback from my team. We keep tasting all the coffees and pick the ones that we like. And how do I tweak that in a roasting machine? And I always say I just enjoy the process, enjoy roasting the coffee and the only thing that's very valuable is to be able to understand, the results from the roasting and how I can adapt and change my extraction. I think that's the only thing that I think is very helpful. As a barista competitor, roasting your own coffee, you know what's going on in the roasting machine. And if there's anything went wrong, you can adapt in your extractions and stuff like that.
Jack, this would be a good question to ask you, and we might have differing opinions on this. I'm open to a bit of debate. What is it better if say for example, you're roasting for filter? If you wanted to QC your roasts, is it better to cup or is it better to brew them? Because I feel like sometimes, in companies I've worked at, I think people have been just too eager to cup that rather than test it.
Totally. We approach it in a few different ways. I guess from a quality control standpoint, once it's roasted, you can't actually control it, right? So it's a quality check more than anything. We, outside of competition coffee for production coffee, where we're roasting the same coffee week after week, we definitely approach cupping as a consistency check, not a profile or tasting check. Do they all taste the same? Do they all taste yum? We definitely approach actually dialing in a roast profile in the method that it's going to be brewed in.
Yeah.
So, there's no point dialing in your roast for a cupping table because I've never been served a cupping bowl at a cafe.
Yeah, no, this is what I mean. Like, I don't like it when people's method of QC is cupping for what eventually is going to be brewed.
It's a control point. It's super quick that we can go through and go, yes, the 5 that I've done today all taste the same in this method, so I know that they're in a window.
Yeah.
But actually dialing in that roast profile to start with definitely does need to be done.
Craig Simon has a good little methodology around this. He when he wants to QC espresso roasts, he'll actually make like a giant long black in a cupping bowl instead of cupping it.
So it gives you a little bit more clarity of flavour and that sort of thing.
It's like, how is this actually going to taste in its finished state? Do you ever do that with your?
No, I have not done that. This is the first time I heard about it. But for competition, I always roast and I cupped it and I extract on my machine. It's quite funny. Like for my espresso, I just roast it as a filter roast, and you want to preserve all the best stuff in.
That was interesting about how Jack and Crowley roast for theirs, because the espresso roast for them are really light. Like it's probably a filter roast that most cafes would use, sort of thing. And but I guess where that sort of strength of that comes in is right. You preserve a lot in the coffee, but sometimes when you're going overseas, like the quality or the water and all the gear that you get is just so much different. And so having a roast like that seems to aid you a bit. I don't know.
It's definitely something that we came up against in previous years as well. It's just how much a machine and more so the water is making, turning up to 3 years in a row and going, gee, this espresso, it's real salty. Great.
I think one good learning this time was, we were competing nationals in North Melbourne and we were practicing in Richmond. Obviously the water is a bit different. Shout out to Sean from Cafe Tommy. I've been there many times and grabbed all the water, bring it back to my practice room to practice with, because trying to mimic as close as possible the water I'm using. Did
that pay off?
That did. Big time. 100%. Yeah.
So you went to a cafe in the near area, you got the water, and you took it back to your location, brewed with it, and it was pretty similar to what you ended up using on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the happiest that we've been backstage.
Yeah.
Than previous years for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
For the first time I did it, I grabbed the water back to my training room and put some Janson espresso and just taste salty. And I was like, how do I adapt and change this extraction wise as well as roasting wise?
Yeah, I always find it interesting the lengths that people go to sort of get a bit more ahead in a competition. Like, these things, like you spend so much time on these
Yeah, well, I think on that it's more that, we can definitely, Gab's more than capable of dialing in a coffee on the day and going around something, but it just means it's one more thing that we didn't have to do in our 30 minutes of practice time.
Yeah, because that 30 minutes, it can be stressful, you're trying to dial your espresso, your milk, and your signature drink in that 30 minutes, while using a fresh, brand new sponsored new machines and, your grinders in different environment. It's going to change everything. So try to make it as seamless as possible. And
we've been going for nearly 50 minutes, so we'll wrap up shortly. But I want to try finishing on it in a different way than I have previously. Have either of you got any questions for me? Because I sit here and I ask you guys all the questions. Have you got a question for me?
Ooh. Hottest take you've had on the podcast?
Goodness gracious me. Trying to go back. Geez, you got me stumped. I'm trying to think back. Check the logs. Check the register. ChatGPT. What's the hottest take? I think I go back to perhaps Borum when I was interviewing him in Jakarta. He said at the time he was the first person that I heard say that he liked the new CVA system. So obviously we changed the cupping score, and I thought that was like he's probably the only one that was brave enough to say it at the time, because there was a lot of hysteria about it. You know, like everyone's coming out smashing the
it was
SCA and
pitchforks and torches for a little bit.
Yeah, so I found like he was probably the one person that was like, yeah, I like it, and I just kind of respected it at the time.
Yeah, I like that.
So, what do you make of the new CVA?
I mean, I was younger than Gab when I got my Q grader, so I grew up on the form. I think CVA has definitely got some elements to it that have a lot of value for sure. You know, we've already used some of it in you know what we would call comparative cuppings, where you have a purpose for what you're doing. You know, I want to find this, so you can score it against that, and then it's relative. It's going to be interesting over the next 12, 18 months as to what people actually pull out of it and use, as opposed to as a whole system. I don't think we get all of the elements finding value with what we do, but there's definitely bits of it that make a lot of sense.
I guess the hottest take I can give you aside from that is I'm legally not allowed to ask you for hot takes anymore. So,
did you get a letter?
No, just it's a long story, but yeah. Have you? What about you, Gab? You sitting there cooking up a question?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of you as well. You're a man of many dreams, and there's a lot of things that you want to do in your career, and you've done a lot of things in coffee. Just what's Kurt cooking up in 2026?
I want to move to New York. I want to move to New York and open a coffee bar in New York.
You're gonna brew your espresso every day on King Street, air freight it to New York, and brew it over there. Pre-done.
Well, my partner
Melbourne espresso on tap.
Yes. Jack's got me figured out, man. Jack's got me figured out. But my girlfriend is moving back to Canada in a few weeks, and I want to follow.
Don't want to be too close.
We want to move to New York, and I've always dreamed of living in New York and potentially opening a coffee shop there. Like, I sometimes say that I'm an American stuck in an Australian's body, which a lot of people would probably wonder why that is in current times. But I love people from the US. I want to go there so bad. I just want to go try something different. I've never lived overseas. But
what does a Project Zero coffee shop look like in New York? A New York coffee shop is very different to what you've got going on downstairs.
Yeah. Look, I think. Probably try and see what the situation is there, and then go from there. Because from what I've heard, if you want to operate in New York, you've really got to immerse yourself as a New Yorker. And I don't even know if I can get a visa there at this stage.
True.
But I want to go try something new.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm pretty crazy. I always have these ideas that I want to pursue. So I think New York's on the cards for me. That's an Easter egg for you all.
Yeah, very cool.
Will I see you in Panama?
Yes. Yes, you will. I'm trying to go during the harvest. I really want to make some a documentary type thing about Panamanian, starting from the harvest, going to the best of Panama, and then at the World of Coffee. Yeah. I think it's World of Coffee there. Yeah. So I'd really like to do that. To make that happen, probably need to talk with the sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, got to give a big shout out to Oatly supporting the podcast. Been with me for a little while now. They helped me in my recent Euro trip. Oatly, if you need some oat milk, I would really suggest you contact them. They also do this really good oat cream. So I make curry with it. We volumize our oat matcha with it. So if you're a vegan and you're looking for some good cream-based solutions for your curry, Oatly, Timor, we all know and love Timor. So Timor scales, digital scales, hand grinders.
Tamper.
They've got a machine coming out as well that they're collaborating with. So if you need some Timor, get to them. And then, of course, Barista Group. So they're importing all the Uber milks in Australia, and Mackie Izaga coffee grinders. Really influential for what I'm doing over at King Street, Flinders Street. So we're going to have Melbourne's first Uber Milk Plus, which is like a 5-headed milk monster. It'll steam 5 different milks. Anyway, so it'll revolutionize, I guess, coffee bars around the country. And Barista Group are the only importer for it in Australia. So if you basically want to save yourself, tens of thousands of dollars a year, get in contact with Barista Group in Sydney. So I think we nailed the sponsor.
Yeah, you did.
Out there. Getting better at it. But you really segued with that Panama question. But thanks so much for your time. I was pretty eager to get Gab on, and this has been a really insightful podcast. And I think you've got every chance at becoming the World Barista Champion. Like you've not been far behind in the years that you've come second. You've been really close.
We know.
So, maybe you do Anthony Douglas was one of those ones where he too finished second a number of years. And then when he finally got his opportunity, he had grown so much and he'd always kind of effectively been competing at the highest level.
And you go back and Craig Simon was in a similar thing. It took him a long time to get that first one as well. And
Sasha.
That all of the other competitors are what paves the way for the work that people like Gab do now, and you wouldn't come back year after year better if you didn't have such a talented pool to compete against and work with.
Yeah, it's an incredibly tough competition, and I guess you're probably the first national champion announced for it. I think Switzerland had theirs not last week or something, but you'd be among the first that are effectively nominated to go to the World. So we'll see who makes it in other countries. I don't even know who's competing in other ones, but we'll find out. But thanks again. Thanks so much. It's been an awesome podcast, and this will probably get released next week. We'll get it done nice and quick for you. But best of luck in the competition. Thanks so much for all your insight, and we'll see you later, folks. Hooroo.